Hello friends and welcome back to Stutor. So in the first session regarding the chapter life processes, we had discussed about the autotrophic mode of nutrition, the photosynthesis and all those topics related to that. Then we had started heterotrophic nutrition where we discussed about the saprophytic and parasitic mode of nutrition. So today we'll start with the third mode of heterotrophic nutrition, that is Holozoic mode of nutrition. So straight away we'll go to the definition. What is Holozoic nutrition? It is a type of heterotrophic mode of nutrition in which the organism takes in whole food and then digests it into smaller particles using enzymes inside their body. So we know that it is a mode of heterotrophic nutrition where the organism is depending upon another organism for nutrition, and then they take in the whole food and then digestion is occurring inside the body. That is, they are taking in the complex food and further breakdown of this complex food is taking place inside the body. Now we'll just compare this one with the other two type of heterotrophic nutrition. For example, if we take the parasitic mode of nutrition, there we know the organism is depending upon another organism or the host for their nutrition. But the difference is that there the host has already digested the food and now the parasite has to just derive those nutrients. Digested nutrients are being derived. Whereas in the case of holozoic nutrition, it is not so. It is taking in the food, then the digestion, absorption, everything is taking place inside the body of that organism itself. Now, we'll see the examples for those. We will mainly discuss about three organisms in this particular session, that is amoeba, paramecium and human being. So amoeba, it's a very familiar example for all of you. It is a unicellular organism and you know the speciality of amoeba is the presence of pseudopodia. Now we'll see that it is helpful, how it is helpful in the case of nutrition in amoeba. Now further moving to paramecium. Paramecium is also a unicellular organism and then it is an aquatic organism also. Unicellular aquatic organism. Now, before going into amoeba, paramecium and human being in detail, we'll first see what are the steps of Holozoic nutrition. There are 5 steps which are involved in Holozoic nutrition: ingestion, digestion, absorption, assimilation and egestion. So, what are all these 5 steps about? We'll first start with the ingestion process. So, in ingestion process, the organism is taking in the food. So, the organism is taking in the food. So, that is done in ingestion. Now, digestion. Digestion, again, it's a very familiar term. Now, what happens in digestion is that whatever complex food the organism is taking in, it is broken down. That is, breaking down of complex food into simpler forms, which can be easily taken up by the body. Now, next one is the absorption process. Now, absorption, here what happens is the digested food is absorbed by the body. Digested food is absorbed by the body. By the end of digestion, we get the digested materials. Now, these digested materials are very effectively absorbed by our body. That is the process of absorption. Now, the fourth step is the assimilation process. Now, what is assimilation? Utilization of digested food from the body is called as assimilation. Actually, the main aim, if we see, is the energy gain. Like we have to gain energy, and that's why we told in the beginning itself that the source of energy is obviously the food we consume. So, for the generation of energy, the food whatever we had consumed, whatever the digestion has taken place, the absorption has taken place, it has to be used up for the process of formation of energy. So that is done by the assimilation process. Now the last step is the egestion process. Here it is the removing of undigested food from the body. Removal of undigested food. In digestion process, there are various chemical reactions occurring. So, at the end of the chemical reaction, we get the main end product which are required by the body. And along with these end product, we get few byproducts which are not required by the body or which are not used up by the body. So these can be considered as the waste materials. Now these waste materials has to be removed from the body, and that is through the digestion process. Now we'll see the nutrition in amoeba. So this particular diagram, it is given in the textbook also in this particular session of the chapter. So here we'll see one by one what happens. So this is the amoeba. Now you know this is the nucleus. Now this is the pseudopodia. The organism can extend its pseudopodia and it is not having a definite fixed shape. Now when the amoeba will sense a food particle, now here the food particle, this red mark on which I have kept the arrow, that's a food particle, it's labeled. So whenever the amoeba senses a food particle, what it will do is it will extend its pseudopodia. In the next diagram you can see that it is extending its pseudopodia such that the food particle, it is completely engulfed or it is trying to cover the food particle using its pseudopodia. Now in the third picture if you go, you can see that the food particle is completely covered using the pseudopodia. Now what happens is, whenever the food particle enters into the body of an amoeba, the food vacuole formation is taking place. Now what is food vacuole? The food particle along with the water, they will form a vacuole inside the body. Now that is called as a food vacuole. So the digestion process is occurring inside this food vacuole. So whatever digestive enzymes, everything is secreted into this food vacuole and then the digestion is occurring here, and the digested food particle, what it will do is it will diffuse into the cytoplasm. Now this in the second last picture you can see that the food vacuole is there, inside that the food particle is there. Now in the last diagram you can see that the food vacuole has disappeared. Now the digested food particle has entered into the cytoplasm through diffusion. So this is the picture which is given in the textbook, and so now we'll see the Holozoic steps. So it's the same thing. In the first picture you can see that this here food particle is indicated by this blue color. So here the food is near to the body of amoeba. Now pseudopodia, it is extending its pseudopodia such that the food particle can be covered properly, and that's the process of ingestion. The amoeba is taking in the food material. Now in this step it is given that it is digestion. Now you can see that here this white colored almost circular thing, so that's the food vacuole formation has taken place. The food is inside the food vacuole. Now various digestive enzymes are secreted, food vacuole, and digestion is taking place. So that's the second process, digestion. Now the third process, absorption. The digested food material is diffused into the cytoplasm. In the digestion step, you can see the blue color food particle is still inside the food vacuole, whereas in the next step, the food particle, the digested food particle is now in the cytoplasm. So diffusion has taken place. Now absorption is attained. Now, the assimilation, where the utilization of digested food from the body is taking place. Now, the last step is the digestion process, where whatever undigested material or waste material is there, it is thrown out of the body again using the pseudopodia itself. Here you can see that it has again taken up a different shape, the pseudopodia, and it is throwing out the food material here. So that is ingestion, digestion, absorption, assimilation, and digestion. So that's about the nutrition in amoeba. Now we'll see about the paramecium. Now you can see the picture here, but don't get confused with all these labelings. We'll just see whatever is required for us here. So this is the paramecium. Now, this oral groove. Oral groove is an important labeling. So this is the part through which the organism is taking in the food, or ingestion is occurring here. So that's the oral groove. Now we have the cytoplasm here. Then you can see the food vacuole formation. It is marked. It is labeled here, food vacuole. So the then next important labeling is the anal pore. Now anal pore or the anal groove. So that's through which the egestion process is occurring. Then one important labeling here is that of the cilia. Now what is cilia? As you can see in this picture, they are the hair-like structures that is present throughout the surface of this organism. This hair-like structure is called as a cilia. Now, what's the use of cilia in the case of nutrition is that whenever like the cilia actually helps in the movement of paramecium, it will move forward, it will move backward, so that the paramecium can easily move from one place to another. So whenever this movement is occurring and whenever the food, it is near the food particle, the cilia is in motion, it is moving forward and it is moving backward. So whenever the cilia, the food particle is near to its body, due to the action forward and backward action of the cilia, the food particle will enter through the oral groove. So that's the ingestion process. The food particle is entering in. Now what happens is they will form the food vacuole and there the digestion process is occurring. Now once the digestion is occurring, what happens is the absorption will occur. That is, the digested food material will diffuse into the cytoplasm. So that absorption will occur there, and the energy is produced inside the body through assimilation. And at last, what happens is the egestion process. That is, undigested food material is thrown out of the body through this. So here you can see the undigested food material, it is thrown out through the anal pore. So that's the egestion process. So that's about the paramecium. Now we'll straight away move to the nutrition in human being. So whenever we talk about the nutrition in human being, we have to first start with the digestive system in human beings. So it's very familiar. We'll just see the main things. So here we have the buccal cavity, then followed by the esophagus or the food pipe. Then here it's the stomach. Then liver is also marked here. Then this structure in the picture, it is depicted by a yellow colored structure, that's the pancreas. Now we have the small intestine, then large intestine, then the rectum and the anus, which are associated with the digestive system in human beings. Now we need to know what and all happens in each part, starting from the buccal cavity. So we'll see in detail. So the first one, mouth or the buccal cavity. So, yeah, we'll see what and all are there. You know, it's actually very simple. We have to just notice few things and that's it. So, first one, this white color thing. So, what's that? Yeah, that's the teeth. Silly question, right? So, that's the teeth. Now, what does our teeth do? Imagine you eating an apple or your favorite chocolate. So you enjoy it first, then the first thing you do is you chew it. So while chewing, what happens is you're actually breaking down the larger food particles into smaller food particles so that it can easily pass down the buccal cavity. So while chewing, we are actually breaking down the larger food particle into simpler or smaller food particle. So that is done by our teeth. Now, which is the next important part here? What's that? That's the tongue. Now, tongue actually, it's a muscular part in the buccal cavity. Now, when the teeth is undertaking the chewing process, this tongue will roll these food. Now they'll roll it, they'll take that food material to like inside our buccal cavity. So that rolling, and it even helps in pushing the food forward into the esophagus. So that's done by the tongue. Now we told about these two structures, the teeth and the tongue. Now you know that there is again an important thing to be discussed here, that's the salivary glands. Now, salivary glands is present inside the buccal cavity. Now, the salivary glands will secrete an enzyme called as the salivary amylase. Now, what does salivary amylase do? The first thing about the saliva is that it will help in wetting the food. So, whatever dry food we are taking in, wetting, it will get wet inside the buccal cavity. So, that is done by saliva itself. So, it will again help in easy passage of the food down the buccal cavity. Now the next thing is that the starch digestion is taking place. Whatever the starch rich food we are taking in, its digestion is first starting in the buccal cavity. So here the conversion of starch into simpler sugar is taking place. That is, starch is broken down into simpler sugars. So the digestion starts here itself. In the buccal cavity, the starch digestion is taking place. So here we saw teeth, tongue, the salivary glands and the salivary amylase, whatever is taking place. Now, from the buccal cavity, only the starch digestion is occurring here. The food now, it is going to the esophagus or the food pipe. Now, this is the food pipe, this one, this part, and it is connected to the stomach. Now in the esophagus, what happens is, the food now it is passing through the esophagus, it has to reach the stomach now. In the esophagus, have you ever wondered how it is going down, or how it is going down to stomach? That is to the peristaltic movement. Now, what is this peristaltic movement? It is the rhythmic contraction of muscles of the lining of alimentary canal to push the food forward. So here you can see it is labeled that the first one, the muscle contract, constricting passageway and pushing bolus down. Now the food, here the muscle is contracting, so the food has reached here. Now what happens is, here the muscle is relaxing. Wherever the food is there, it is relaxing. Now again this rhythmic contraction and relaxation is followed, and then the food is reaching down. In this second diagram, I guess it's more clear. Here you can see that here it's labeled muscle contracts, then muscle relax. So here it's the food. Now again muscle contracts. Now the food will move down. Now what again happens is, here the muscle will contract. So yeah, so that contraction and relaxation, it will rhythmic way it is taking place, and what it does is it will reach our stomach. So that's the peristaltic movement. That's the point to be remembered in the esophagus, that food will move down the alimentary canal through the rhythmic contraction and relaxation of the muscles in the lining of alimentary canal to push the food forward. That's the peristaltic movement. Now the food it is now in the stomach. So we'll see what happens in the stomach. So here stomach, here it's the labeling is there, esophagus and stomach. So we'll straight away see, in the first buccal cavity we saw that the secretion, that is the salivary glands. Then the esophagus, we just had to see what is the movement taking place. Again in stomach we have several secretions. We'll see that first. So there are three secretions present, that is hydrochloric acid, pepsin and the mucus. So hydrochloric acid or the HCl, pepsin and the mucus. Now what are the uses, or what are the role of all these three secretion inside the stomach? Now what does this hydrochloric acid do is, the first thing about hydrochloric acid is, It will help in killing the bacteria which is present in the food we consume. So it will help in killing the bacteria. So that's the first role. Then the second is actually the enzyme pepsin, the second secretion which I told, the pepsin. For its action, these enzymes are actually very peculiar in its action. That is, they are very specific in its action. Few enzymes they can react in, or they are very active in acidic media, and certain are very active in alkaline media. So, like according to this, only according to certain pH and certain temperature, only these enzymes will act. Now this pepsin, they need a acidic media for action. So this hydrochloric acid, it is an acid. So it will provide an acidic media for the pepsin to act. So that's the two role of hydrochloric acid. That is, it will help in killing the bacteria and it will help in providing an acidic media for pepsin to act. Now, what is the role of pepsin? Pepsin will help in protein digestion or the partial protein digestion. It is helping in partial protein digestion. Then, why is here the mucus then? So, one thing we have to think here is hydrochloric acid. It is an acid. And don't you think that it can, to an extent, affect us, like the lining of the stomach, all epithelial cells, whatever present in the lining of the stomach, it can, this hydrochloric acid can affect these lining, right? So, who will help or who is helping us in protecting the lining of the stomach from hydrochloric acid? It is the mucus secretion which is helping the protecting the lining of the stomach from the action of hydrochloric acid under normal condition, so that the hydrochloric acid do not harm our stomach lining. So that's the role of mucus. So we'll see what and all happens here. So protein digestion is occurring here. The main digestion occurring is the protein digestion. So till now we saw that partial starch digestion, it is occurring in the buccal cavity. Then here the partial protein digestion is occurring, or protein digestion has started in stomach. Now, which is the next part? Yeah, one more thing here. The like from the stomach, the food now have to pass through the small intestine. It will go to the small intestine. Now here you can see the labeling here, pyloric sphincter or the sphincter muscles. That is actually helping in the exit of the food from the stomach into the small intestine. That is, little by little the sphincter muscle is controlling the movement of the food from the stomach to the small intestine. So that is done by the sphincter muscles. So that's also an important point to be remembered, the role of sphincter muscles. Now, the next thing we learn is in the so now we'll move to the next part, that is the small intestine. So now from the stomach, the food is now going into the small intestine. Now we'll see this diagram first. So here this red colored structure, it is the liver. Then you can see the stomach here. Then the pancreas here, this green colored one. Then we have the highly coiled structure called as the small intestine. Now we'll see what are the secretions present there. Yeah, so the small intestine will receive two main secretions. That is, first one is the bile juice. So we know from where does we get the bile juice? Yes, it's from the liver. Then the next enzyme or the secretion what the small intestine receives is the pancreatic enzyme from the pancreas. Next is the intestinal juice, which is secreted by the intestine itself, by the small intestine itself. So these are the three secretions. So what is the role of each secretion in the case of digestion? Starting with the bile juice. Now, one thing you have to remember here is from the stomach, the food is now coming to small intestine in the acidic pH, or I told that their HCl is acting and it is providing an acidic media. Now, here in pancreatic enzyme, their pepsin wanted an acidic media. Now, pancreatic enzyme needs a basic media to act. So, bile juice will help in doing that. So, they will provide an acidic media for the pancreatic enzyme to act. That's the first role. Now, second role is the emulsification of fat. Now, what is emulsification? Here, the complex fat, whatever we are taking in it, it also encloses the fat also. Now, whatever the larger fat molecules are there, they are broken down into simpler fat globules. So that is called as the emulsification. That is complex fat into simpler fat globules. So that's about the bile juice. Now we'll discuss about the pancreatic enzyme. So here you can see I've written three main enzyme which comes under the pancreatic secretion, that is amylase, trypsin and lipase. What are each about? Now amylase will help in converting carbohydrate into simpler glucose. Converting carbohydrates into simpler glucose or glucose. Now, what's the role of trypsin? Trypsin helps in complete protein digestion, that is protein into amino acid. Now, amino acid, you know, it's the building block of protein. That's a simpler form of protein. So, they will help in complete protein digestion. Now, what's the role of lipase? Lipase help in complete fat digestion. Here, bile juice, I told, it is helping just emulsification. That is just breaking down is taking place. Now, lipase will completely convert fat into its simpler parts. Now, uh, yeah, so we'll see what and all are there. So first is the emulsification. Next, carbohydrates into glucose. Complete digestion of carbohydrate. Now, complete digestion of protein. Protein into amino acid. Complete digestion of fats. Fats into fatty acid and glycerol. Now, I told you about, okay, you can see here in the background wallpaper, you can see this finger-like projections. What are they? They are the villi, V-I-L-L-I, villi. So, here in small intestine, the complete digestion is occurring. Complete digestion of carbohydrate, protein and fat is accomplished here in the small intestine. So, absorption also begins in small intestine. The absorption of digested food with the help of the villi. This villi, the another close structure or the picture you will see in the next slide. This villi will help in increasing the surface area of absorption, and also villi is provided with blood vessels, and so they also help in absorption process. Whatever the digestion is completed here, the digested food is absorbed by the small intestine using this villi. So that's about small intestine. Now large intestine. So we told that the digestion is completed in small intestine. There again the villi is helping and absorption is also started there. Now what is that there left with the large intestine? Large intestine actually helps in the absorption of water. So again here we'll see the presence of the villi. So here you can see more clearly. This finger-like projection is called as the villi. So again in the last slide I told that it is supplied with blood vessels. So here you can see the blood vessels present. So what happens is it is projecting forward, right? It is present in a finger-like manner. So it is actually increasing the surface area. It is helping in increasing the surface area for absorption, and also since it is provided with the blood vessel, once absorption is done, they can easily diffuse into this blood vessel. We have the blood inside that, so the absorbed food can easily diffuse into the blood vessels, and the blood can easily carry this nutrients into various parts inside the body. So the main part with the large intestine is the water absorption. So the undigested food material along with the water content is going to the large intestine. So in the large intestine, the water absorption is done. Now, once the water absorption is done, the undigested food material is thrown out of the body through the rectum and the anus. Now, that's the end of the digestion in human beings too. So, hope you got an idea about the absorption here also. Yeah, so that's the end of nutrition part in life process. So, as usual, we'll see the few questions here. So first one, what is Holozoic mode of nutrition? So that was the point we discussed in the very first slide. So there the organism is taking in the whole food, the digestion is occurring inside the body of the organism. Now, what are the steps involved in the Holozoic mode of nutrition? I'm sorry, here a spelling mistake is there. It's not rare, it's actually what are the steps involved in Holozoic nutrition. So we told that there are 5 steps. What are they? Just try to recollect that. That is ingestion, then what is taking place is digestion, then absorption, assimilation and digestion. So then label diagram of human digestive system. So that's given in the textbook also. Learn the diagram, and I think it's important. Then next is, which are the enzymes and digestive secretions that help the digestion in human, and explain their roles. Now here I've just listed what are they. So salivary amylase, starch digestion in the buccal cavity, HCl, providing acidic media, killing the bacteria, pepsin, the partial protein digestion, mucus, helps the lining of the stomach from the action of HCl, bile juice, provide alkaline medium for pancreatic secretion, and again it help in emulsification of fat. Then pancreatic juice, we have 3 main thing: lipase, trypsin and the amylase enzyme. So conversion of complete digestion of carbohydrate, protein and fats. Then next is the intestinal secretions too. So they also help in digestion. So that was actually the end of the nutrition part here. So you can go through the questions, and we'll see in the next session with the next topic, that is the respiration part.